I sat down to make this video, but now I'm really hungry. So on today's lesson, we're going to talk about where chords come from. And not only chords specifically, like the theory behind chords, but where the shapes come from. You know, there's the shapes that we actually apply to the guitar, and maybe you're wondering where they even come from. That's what I'm going to tell you. So first, let's just talk about what a chord is. So a chord is a collection of notes from any given key played in harmony. So together, you know? And each chord type has its own specific note formula, and we apply this formula to any given major scale to get our notes for our chord. So let's say we take the C major 7 chord, for example, and we want to figure out what notes go into that chord. We first have to know what the note formula is for that chord, so for the major 7 chord. And so that formula is a 1st degree, a 3rd, a 5th, and a 7th degree. And to see what exactly those notes are, we need to look in the C major scale. In the C major scale, because the chord is a C chord, right? C major 7. So the notes in the C major scale go like this: C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And we label each one of those notes 1 to 7. And so to build a C major 7 chord, we need to extract the notes of that chord to build our C major 7 according to the major 7 chord formula. So those notes are going to be the C note, that's your 1st degree, your E note, that's your 3rd, your G, that's your 5th, and your B, that is your 7th. And so just like that, we have our C major 7 chord. Great, cool. Woo. And we will get to the shapes part of this video, but let's just talk about how the chords are built to begin with, okay? So now we have our C major 7 chord and we know how to build it. What if we want to build the C minor 7th chord? Well, same thing. We first need to see what the chord formula is for the minor 7 chord, and that is a 1st degree, flat 3rd, 5th, and flat 7th. So to see exactly what those specific notes are, we need to look at the C major scale once again. And notice how I said the C major scale, even though we're trying to build a minor chord. All chords, even minor chords, are built from the major scale. So any alteration that is made to the notes, let's say flattening a 3rd in this case, or sharpening a 5th, or whatever it is made directly to the major scale. So we'll look at our notes in the C major key, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, same ones, and label them 1 to 7. And then we'll extract the notes we need according to our chord formula to build our chord, right? So we need a 1st degree, so that's gonna be our C. Then we need an E flat. Why? Because the chord formula calls for a flattened 3rd, and the natural 3rd in the C major key is an E, right? So when you flatten an E, it becomes an E flat. Then our 5th is going to be a G note, and our flat 7 is going to be a B flat. Because again, the natural 7th degree in the C major key is a B. So when we flatten a B, it becomes B flat. Okay, so cool, yay, that's our B minor 7 chord. Ta-da! And so the same process applies to every single chord type in the chord history of the universe. So cool, that's the theory side of how we build chords, right? The theory of the chords. That's what I just said. Now, where do our chord shapes come from? You know the shapes, you know what I'm talking about. The shapes, where's my guitar? The shapes that we use to play our chords, right? Well, again, they all come from the major scale. And there's a little bit of an added element to this because in theory, there's only one major scale, right, of every key. But when you apply the major scale to the guitar, you could play the same major scale in 5 shapes, the CAGED shapes, CAGED. You know, I have a playlist about the CAGED lessons if you want to watch that. Since we can play the major scale in 5 different positions, that means we could play the same chord type in different positions as well. Oh my God, what am I, friggin' fancy pants? Okay, so now let's find out where our major 7th and minor 7th chord shapes come from. The same chords we used before. Let's just use the same ones. We're on a roll with those, right? Okay, so here are our major 7 chord shapes, okay? They're on the screen right now. I think so. Well, I'm in the past. I don't know. You tell me. Let me play them for you. Why not? So this is your E shape C major 7 chord. This is your A shape C major 7 chord. And this is your D shape C major 7 chord. Ta-da! So what does that mean? C shape, E shape, whatever shape? Remember when I said the major scale could be played out of the 5 CAGED positions? C, G, D? That's what I'm talking about. Those CAGED positions. The E-shaped C major 7 chord lives within the E-shaped C major scale. And the A-shaped C major 7 chord lives within the A-shaped C major scale. And the D-shaped C major 7 chord lives at my house. That was so stupid. So I will show you exactly where they live in the major scale, because they live right in there. I'll show you. So this is your E-shaped C major 7 chord. And it lives in the E-shaped C major scale, which is right here. And so now if we compare our two shapes, our chord shape and our scale shape, we could see how that E-shaped C major 7 chord lives within the E-shaped C major scale. So this is our C major scale, right? The first degree of our chord is right here. The 7th is right here. The 3rd here, and the 5th right there. So we're just extracting those chords out of our major scale, and we're getting our chord. So now let's do the same thing for the A-shaped C major 7 chord. So that's your A-shaped C major 7 chord, right? That lives in your A-shaped C major scale, which looks like this. And so when we put those two shapes side by side, we see again how the A-shaped chord lives in the A-shaped scale. So in our major scale here, the 1st is here, the 5th is here, 7th here, and the 3rd here, right? And we play them together, and you get your A-shaped C major 7 chord. Again, the chord shape lives inside the scale shape. And now the D-shaped C major 7 chord. Let's do that one. So this is your D-shaped C major 7 chord, and that lives within your D-shaped C major scale. And that looks like this. And again, when we compare our two shapes together, we see where our chord shape lives within our scale shape. So out of the major scale, right, our D-shaped C major scale, the 1st degree is right here, the 5th is here, 7th here, and 3rd here. And again, our chord shape lives comfortably in our scale shape. And now we're ignoring the shapes out of the C and G major scale just because they're not very conveniently located. You know, typically we would build chords out of the E, A, and D shaped major scale just because finger-wise it's just easier to play. And that's not all chords, not all the time, but just typically when you would build different types of chords, you would build them out of the E, A, and D shape. I feel like I just said the same thing 6 times. Okay, so now let's do the same thing for our minor 7 chords. Remember those? Yeah. Yeah. So here are our C minor 7th chord shapes. So this is our E-shaped C minor 7 chord, and it lives within the C-shaped major scale. So again, that is this guy right there, right? And when we compare those two shapes side by side, we can see exactly where the minor chord lives in the major scale. So the 1st degree of your chord is right here. The 5th is right here. The flat 7th is right here. Why? Because the natural 7th would be right here in the major scale, right? So when we flatten a note, we bring it down a half step. So this is your natural 7th. This would be your flattened 7th. Your flat 3rd is right here. Why? Again, because your natural 3rd would be right here in the major scale. So when you flatten it, bring it down a half step, right? That's your 5th degree of your chord and your 1st degree. And ta-da, there is our E-shaped C minor 7th chord that we find within our E-shaped C major scale. And now this is our A-shaped C minor 7th chord, right? That lives within your A-shaped C major scale. So again, this is your A-shaped C major scale, right? And when we compare our shapes side by side, we see exactly where the minor chord lives in the major scale, right? So within our major scale, the 1st degree of our chord is right here. The 5th is right here. The flattened 7th is right here. Why? Because the natural 7 would be here. So we flatten it, it goes down a half step. The flattened 3rd would be here. Again, natural 3rd would be here in the major scale. So when we flatten it, it goes down to here. And our 5th is right there. And just like that, we have our A-shaped C minor 7 chord that lives in the A-shaped C major scale. You got it. And now lastly, on to our D-shaped C minor 7 chord. So this is our D-shaped C minor 7 chord that lives in our D-shaped C major scale, right? So out of our D-shaped C major scale, we see that our 1st degree of our chord is right here, right? We have a 5th degree here. We have our flat 7th here. Why? Again, natural 7th would be here, flat 7 down here. Our flat 3rd is here. Again, our natural 3rd would be here, so we flatten it. Goes down a half step, and then just like that, we can see exactly how our chord lives, our minor chord lives in our major scale. The shape, you know? So that's it, guys. That is where the chord shapes come from, you know? So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you learned something. I'm gonna go make something to eat, and that's all, I guess, you know? What else should we talk about? I used to collect obituaries. And that's all I have to say. I don't remember what this video was about. What was it about? Was it any good? Guys, I gotta say, I'm really excited about summer ending. I know everyone's freaking out about it, but I'm very happy. I don't like the sun. I don't like the sun. Sayonara. Sayonara. So that's all. I mean, I don't have anything else to talk about or to say right now. So I'll just go, I suppose. I have an ebook out. It's a chord and scale study book. So you could just kind of scroll through and find the chord shape you want, the scale shape you want, and you could just look at it, you know? If you want it, it's there. If not, it's still there. Okay, guys, I'm gonna go. I'm going. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being cool, as always. So I'll see you soon. Well, I'll be here. Right here. Okay, toodles.